I almost brought in my car stash of rocks, which is like one of the gayest things about me. I almost brought that in for you today.
Me and you with our rocks in our cars.
It is a gay. It's a
Mine
thing.
are a rainbow, a subtle rainbow. They're earth tones.
Oh my god!
So it makes me I don't know,
even gayer.
Yeah, probably. Welcome back to Splice and Splatter,
the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema, where classic horror
meets modern gore.
And what are we talking about?
Well, we're
today?
your hosts.
Oh yeah, I always forget.
People
to
might not know
us.
who we are. They probably don't know who we are. To be fair,
let's be honest.
Yeah. We have lovely Siena.
Hi.
To my right.
Refusing
Your
to introduce
stage
myself.
left.
Yes, and we have lovely Al in the bit hat here.
Ding. Oh yeah.
Yes,
we almost forgot that that's what we were wearing today. So, for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, which YouTube/Splice and Splatter Pod. Hi, hello. Every other episode's free.
You should be watching us there. I feel like we're much funnier when you can see our faces.
Yeah, there's a lot of reactions that you're not getting. But
Yeah.
we're wearing lovely tidbit hats made by Sarah Jones.
The one and
our
only.
biggest fan.
Yes, truly.
Bless.
our one fan.
Just one. Yeah. She's definitely our number one fan.
Yeah, all of them are just secretly Sarah Jones, just making different accounts. All across the country. She's got like 5 different VPNs.
Sarah, we love you.
Oh, we love you so much. Yeah. Anyway, we've got tidbit hats.
Yeah.
We've got tidbits. We've got lots of tidbits. I have so many tidbits for you today.
Oh, I'm so excited. We said it was going to be a tidbit heavy one.
Oh, we did. We saved the hats for the right episode. I mean, I was telling you beforehand, what are we talking about today, Al? What films are we doing?
We're very excited about these ones. We both kind of, I've seen All Cheerleaders Die, which is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I totally didn't write down the year.
Good. I have your year written down.
Oh,
it's,
perfect.
2013.
Thanks. Yes, I
That's
obviously
what I'm here for.
that. So 2013's All Cheerleaders Die. Wow.
We're off to
such a
start.
start.
So proud of us.
And then you're doing...
I'm doing Jennifer's Body, which... Me doing Jennifer's Body, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, it was going to happen.
It was going to happen. I had not seen it before. But I feel like it's a part of me anyway.
Yeah, and we said too, like every time I see it, we had like a pack of horror stickers, and there was a Jennifer's Body, and I was like, "Here's Siena," not knowing that you hadn't seen it, but I was like, "This is you. This is like your movie."
I'm so mad at myself. I forgot. I have one prop for today. I was gonna have 2. I was gonna bring in the lighter so that I could start with the like.
Burning your tongue? Yeah, definitely.
It.
We don't have to worry about fire hazards at all in dry New Mexico right now.
So luckily for our insurance and my tongue, unluckily for the viewers at home.
And for the horror that I would have to endure watching you burn your tongue.
So I'm talking about Jennifer's Body. I'm coming in hot today, Al. I have so much to talk about with this movie. Largely, I know I wrote you yesterday as we were getting ready, basically just saying like I am so angry after reading through the reviews that came out at the time. The quotes will make your jaw drop.
I know. I secretly already got upset at like just thinking of what they would.
I mean, I've been on like a femme filmmaker rant the past couple of days.
Oh, no.
I
good thing the lighter wasn't brought in today.
Honestly,
I feel like the set
I just burn everything down. So like I was like coming into watching this heated. And then I watched it. I read interviews from them at the time, and then I read interviews with Diablo Cody like looking back on the film a decade later. And this movie is a masterpiece, and it was underappreciated, and the reactions, the things that male critics said, you would never hear them say about a male director making the same film. That's it just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. I'm gonna try and keep my composure until we get into it, but like, fair warning, y'all, if you thought that I got out of hand on the witch episode, it's gonna be worse.
Yeah.
It's gonna be much worse.
No. I'm afraid to be. Actually, I'm gonna have the female rage for you, because I feel like the one I'm covering, not to go too far into it, but doesn't feel like it hits that, and I'm not surprised actually comparatively, like Jennifer body got that, whereas this didn't.
I'm full of rage.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
nothing
Keep it
but
that
rage. Rage all the way up to the tid.
No one will be able to see the cartoon steam
Yes.
out of your ears and the redness.
There you
we
go.
have the red,
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because the hat's covering my ears.
Yeah, the hat's covering the ears, and we have red lights on us, so we're perfect. Before we jump into that, I want to say we have an update for those of you interested in seeing Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
It's the 45-year anniversary. Again, if anyone's tried to watch it online, at least in the last year,
so bad,
it's
y'all.
the shittiest fucking quality online,
copy.
and you can't find it anywhere else. So you're welcome. We're playing it at the Jean Cocteau Cinema here in Santa Fe.
No, truly, the version that's available looks like it was filmed on a potato. Like
someone just carved out
awful.
Little holes and recorded it. It's bad.
Yeah.
So we're playing it April 19th, 20th, and 21st. And tickets are available at JeanCocteauCinema.com. You can buy those now. Again, we're only having like 3 show times of that. And we have a tiny theater.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want tickets to come see it, I would get them now versus later.
Yeah.
But we're very excited to have it.
Yeah.
So I think people will be excited.
Come be a 420 zombie with me. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be over 420.
Yeah.
So
that's the perfect. I don't enjoy it a little bit better if I was drunk.
Let's find
Maybe
out.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
There you go.
And then are you? Well, before we decide who goes first, because I completely forgot.
I think I'm going first.
Do you
I do have a tid. Do you have a bit?
No. Do I ever? I am the bit.
That's true. You are the bit you bring to the podcast. I love that. So
chaos already.
How am I gonna pull it together through this whole conversation?
You won't. It's okay.
So let's have a Diablo Cody tidbit.
Yeah, I know. I forgot this was her.
I fucking love her.
Yeah, she's great.
Like, as an artist, but also just as a human being, I just. So Diablo has a cameo in this movie. Did you know about this?
No.
So in the barroom scene during the fire,
yes,
she appears as one of the people who
is on fire.
Yes, who's on fire. And she said, quote, "To me, I am afraid of fire and fire techniques and all that stuff," which is why I don't know why I asked to be in the bar scene because I've never exploded before.
I hope not. I don't think you'd be here giving an interview if you exploded.
There's a first time for everything, Diablo. She says, "That was me trying to conquer a fear. By the way, they would not allow me to do a full burn for insurance purposes, even though I argued that Burt Reynolds had done it once." So
I like how she lives her life by Burt Reynolds
standards. So first of all, Burt Reynolds did it once. Second of all, if I had remembered to bring my lighter in, there would be my justification because Burt Reynolds did it once.
I love Burt Reynolds. Lights on fire.
And that's how the podcast ends.
Oh my God. I did one of my first like shorts I did in film school was about a guy who was getting ready to go on a date. And remember,
did he explode?
No. But he idolized Burt Reynolds. And so he showed up to his date with a little mustache. Because he really wanted to be Burt Reynolds.
Do you still have this?
It lives somewhere, and also bless. Shout out Corey Pop. He is a amazing like cinematographer and like documentary. He also does the Puppy Bowl. But he was my actor in that too. So bless him for going along with that. But yeah, love Burt Reynolds also. So me and Diablo Cody hold strong on that.
I love
that. Just that's the content I was making in film school.
Iconic. I desperately need to see that out.
We'll find
if
that
you
for
find
you.
it,
We'll dig it up.
Please.
Only for your eyes. But yes. And Burt Reynolds. If you ever
in
want
heaven.
to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, is he dead? Fuck.
He's dead, right? Guys, is Burt Reynolds dead? No? Yes?
Yeah,
we just got 2 different answers.
Yeah, there were some different head shakes.
Oh my God.
Lauren, are you going to like he yeah, not here anymore. Damn.
See, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Bert, this one is for you.
Pour one out for Bert.
Yeah.
Oh God. We're
on that note.
Yeah.
That's a great.
That's actually a pretty good place to jump into Jennifer's body.
Yeah, you're going in.
Yeah, going in hot. What was your watch experience?
Oh my
diving into the
I don't know if we want to get here now.
Pool. Yes, get here now.
But here is my so I only
don't know
had
what
a couple
it is.
notes.
I'm so excited. Yes.
I could have written every minute of this film a note.
Oh, I know. Same.
All my notes are in all caps.
Good.
And I just wrote I don't know what this do. Brutal. And then I wrote J.K. Simmons with hair, rock and roll with a conscience. He likes maggot rock. He wears nail polish. My dick is bigger than his. The way she's perched on the chair during the sex scene. And then what the fuck is that prom dress? So those were my watch notes. Clearly,
please never bring in an actual tidbit again. Please only do this. This is the big content I need.
These are usually my watch notes, by the way. It's just me screaming at my phone.
Oh, same, 100%.
Yeah,
so
that was my experience.
Great. When did you first watch this film?
Today or last night. Today.
This was your first time seeing it?
I've only seen clips.
You too? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so glad it was both of our first.
Yeah, we were virgins.
Yes, Jennifer's body virgins.
Yeah, no. So I was, again, seeing clips of this versus watching all those clips packed together.
And then you see it in context.
Oh my God.
It's a masterpiece.
Bonkers in a way that I was not expecting it. But like I said, when it finished, just with it finishing with like the music it had, and I was like, can you imagine walking out of the theater when that...
In 2009.
Yeah. And I said it would have been my fucking personality.
Yeah.
I would have been
It
unhinged.
was, and I didn't even watch it.
Yeah. Exactly. The whole dad.
Yes.
I would have been insufferable.
Yeah.
For like about a year and a half.
Thank God neither of us watched it at the time.
Yeah.
Because I think neither of us would have ever said anything that wasn't a Jennifer's Body quote.
Yeah. So it was not what I was expecting, and I don't know what the fuck I expected. Everyone's probably like, come on. But loved. Absolutely loved. It was just a fun fucking ride, and oh my God, that dialogue was something.
So brilliant.
I was like, it was like the campy horror version of like Clueless. I feel like she really tried to like mold this like language.
Which I've been thinking about that. I feel like one of the many ways that we've done Diablo Cody dirty is that I feel like there's been like a backlash to this style of dialogue in response to this film and to Juno, where people are like, oh, it's like that like Diablo Cody dialogue, meaning like that something is like kind of like artificially heightened, and like it's clearly intended to be.
I was gonna say, like, that's her thing. What's
that's
wrong
her thing.
With that? You like it, you don't.
And like
you like it, you don't.
And like, I'm sorry, have you ever seen a Tarantino movie? Like, they are doing the same thing with heightened dialogue.
Yeah.
It's just that this is like a femme version of it.
Yeah.
Which, like, again, I know I'm being reductive here, but I also think there's like a kernel of truth underneath the surface of that, in that like these are both screenwriters who are obsessed with wordplay, obsessed with like a cutting witty comeback. And like, look how different the reactions are.
Right. Yeah.
Like, imagine if Tarantino had written this dialogue.
Right.
How
different it would be.
How lauded.
Can you imagine?
It would be.
Imagine this was written by Tarantino.
It would be so much worse.
It would be something. There'd be more fire.
There'd be more fire. There would be more Hitler. There would be.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that it's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood.
It's the media. It's female creators. I think amongst a lot of that aren't the white male in Hollywood.
Yes.
You know, creators. So
well, that's a lot of what I was thinking about, and part of like why I'm coming in so hot today. It's like, this was 2009. This is not that long ago.
I know. But it did feel like a different... I'm going to be honest, though. It felt like a different time.
It felt like such a time capsule.
Yeah.
Particularly, I don't know if you had this experience, but I was like, the queer trauma.
Like, oh, God, yeah.
The specific kind of homophobia in this movie that I remember from high school that she captures so well.
Yeah.
That just like... made my skin crawl.
I wasn't out in high school.
So. Oh, no, same. Yeah. Absolutely. I was a straight ally in the GSA.
I was in the...
Yes, we all were. There's not a single straight person in the gay-straight alliance. It's the gay alliance. We all thought we were allies. We all thought we were allies.
Oh
there are no allies. There are only gays and secret gays. Well, tell me I'm wrong.
I had one of the pink shirts too. Yeah.
I still have it.
They were like the American Apparel ones. Yeah.
I have one that says I'm the pink sheep in the family.
Oh my God. That's,
Yep.
We need not say more.
That's end of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that kind of covers our watch experience.
Yeah.
So, Jennifer's Body from 2009, directed by Karen Kusama, who also did Yellow Jackets.
Oh, have you seen it?
I've only seen little pieces of it, and I desperately want to watch the whole thing because oh my gosh,
That
what's her name?
cast, my
Melanie
God.
Linsky from Heavenly Creatures, which I think is a very, if you like Jennifer's Body, you might also like Heavenly Creatures. Very, very high school gay, in a different tone, but also thought it was notable that Kusama also directed an episode of The L Word, which feels important to mention for this film.
The OG?
The OG.
Oh my God, I gotta know what
yes.
episode that
Yeah.
was.
I know. Were you also an L Word watcher?
Oh, yeah.
You know, we were allies.
Yeah.
How could we not?
Oh, no, I was fully gay at that point. Please. By the time I got there, I was just like, am I sure? No, I'm sure. Shane came on screen, and I was like, yeah.
Watching The L Word was like the point at which I like started transitioning from thinking like, oh yeah, I'm like maybe a little bit into girls to like maybe I'm a little bit into guys.
Yeah.
But girls are the main.
L Word is how I realized I was pan. I was like, I like everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gorgeous fucking cast.
Yeah.
Like,
still mad that Generation Q got canceled, but
I'm still mad there wasn't more Pam Grier. But
yeah.
Whole other conversation. Anyway, so that's Karen. Diablo Cody, screenwriter, which wanted to shout that out first because I feel like this is kind of the first example we're talking about on the podcast where we've got a horror film that really has like a screenwriter as auteur, you know, where like her voice and her presence is like a really central part of it, apart from like a director writer who's doing both. So shout that out. Cody obviously is the brain behind Juno. She did the recent Lisa Frankenstein, which takes place in the Jennifer's Body universe, which makes me want to see it a lot more.
No way.
Yeah, right? So I'm glad we watched this first. I feel like now
Yeah.
we can like go into Lisa Frankenstein with a clear conscience. Also the highly underwatched United States of Tara, which have you seen that?
Oh, no, but I know of it. Yeah.
So good.
People, loved that.
So good. Yeah. Cult favorite. Watch it if you get the chance. It's so well written. And it's Toni Collette, so like
so good.
Toni Collette playing multiple characters across genders too, which like what an icon.
Yeah.
And obviously stars the one and only Megan Fox as the titular Jennifer Check.
Love.
Amanda Seyfried as Anita Needy Lesnicki, which my note here says, girl, high school me relates hard.
Oh, no.
Johnny Simmons, J.K. Simmons, Amy Sedaris, which, like, amazing.
The cast, everyone kept popping up, and I was like, what the fuck?
Well, and, like, such a who's who of comedy from this period, too. Not a lot of, like, horror icons, but a lot of comedy icons, which I love. And Adam Brody, of course. Although
and Chris Pratt.
And Chris Pratt.
Out of fucking nowhere.
I was trying to forget about him.
Who looked like he'd be that character in real life.
I don't feel like he was acting.
Didn't get lucky with acting. I said he brought his own wardrobe.
Yeah.
But from like 2024. Yeah. He just like brought that back.
Brought his wardrobe, brought his baggage.
Yeah.
And this is here's my summary for you. It's a classic queer coming of age story. One closeted high school gay struggles to hold back the other closeted high school gay's reign of terror throughout the local straight male community after a satanic ritual leads to her possession.
Did you write that, or
yes.
was that the? Okay,
no,
I was like,
there's
no. Was that on mine? I was like, that sounds so like it's from your mouth.
Can you imagine?
I'm like, well, nailed it.
I mean, like, but really though, like, it's so. This is the queer femme high school experience.
Yeah, not for me.
Really?
No.
How did you escape this horror?
There were a lot of jocks floating around, so I just really tried to lay low, and I was just the weird girl that horseback rode and sewed her own clothes to look like anthropology ones because she couldn't afford the other ones. So.
What a skill set, though!
Yeah.
My God,
it wasn't great. It just was.
It just was.
Yeah, did theater. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I really just hid in the shadows.
Well, so maybe you will disagree with this, but one of my notes here was, honestly, I think if you're a gay femme in high school, you either go through high school as a needy or you see enough horrors to become a Jennifer. Were you a needy or a Jennifer in high school?
I mean, I definitely wasn't fucking Jennifer. Let's be like real clear here. I thought I was.
Oh, I mean, everybody thought they were.
Delusional. Yeah. But probably, I don't know. I would like to say I was J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons with hair? Question mark?
Yeah, with hair. Actually, without hair.
Your Whiplash.
Yeah.
Love.
I was
Amazing.
a drummer, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. It's perfect. You are
Other universe.
Whiplash, J.K. Simmons.
Oh my god, which one would I be? I mean, probably needy. Let's be honest. I was probably like lusting after a bunch of people and
I definitely started out as a needy, went through a little bit of high school trauma, and then tried to turn myself into a Jennifer, which I feel like is usually the way that goes.
Yeah,
that's
like that was college.
yeah, exactly.
So the pipeline,
exactly. Yeah, it was the second half of senior year for me. So produced by Daniel Dubiecki, Mason Novick, and Jason Reitman, who of course was the director of Juno. So they worked together on that. Produced by Fox Atomic, which is the studio that distributed Juno. So
okay, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so which is kind of funny to think about because obviously this is in a lot of ways a drastically different film to Juno, which is,
I mean,
I think Juno has like a very sweet heart.
When did Juno come out?
2008 or 7. Okay. It was one of those
earlier.
Two.
Yeah, I feel like there was like that really indie. That was such a perfect film, I think, to lead with though, because it was like, it really was that indie. Sweet story that was like kind of slow paced, really a character study, and then to launch into something like this made sense.
And also very, very soundtrack forward in the way that this is as well.
Yeah, my God. I was listening to it on the way over.
I love it. Which also obviously title Jennifer's Body, named after a song from 1994 by the band Hole, who we love. We stan Courtney Love. Going back to me coming in very heated on this episode.
You were listening to some Hole before.
I was listening to some Hole on the way over. I often am. But, well, and there's some Diablo Cody lore that will come up later about music is very important to her, to how she came by the name that she writes under, all that good stuff. Oh. There's also the song is off the album Live Through This by Hole, and the closing credits song is Violet from the same album. So you hear some Hole on the soundtrack, which feels
appropriate.
Yeah. So here's my second Diablo Cody tidbit for you.
Okay.
Do you know where her name comes from?
No. Probably at one point I did. Not now.
So I'm guessing you probably know kind of like the legendary lore that she started her career as a stripper, right? Which like even in high school, like little baby gay Siena was like the power contained in somebody coming from anywhere on the sex work spectrum, making their way into these Hollywood spaces where, Juno, her first film as a screenwriter, she wins an Academy Award. That is such an enormously powerful thing.
Especially as like, I was going to say that's when that came out, or roughly when that came out, I was in film school, or at least going to film school. Yeah. And so I remember hearing all that and seeing all the adversity against her, like pushing against. And I was like,
how dare you?
Yeah, like what's negative to say?
Exactly.
Even when the conversation about like sex work wasn't really a conversation that was happening at the time. I really don't even feel like that was a conversation until like 2020.
Yeah.
When we all like sat inside and we're like,
let's think about this a little bit.
Let's think about things.
We've got nothing else to do.
Yeah. So I remember hearing that, but being like, she's so badass for that. And I love the fact that she wasn't afraid to hide it even then when people did not treat that well.
Yeah, this was not something that was talked about.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. It would be hard enough for her to like come out as a former sex worker in the film industry now, let alone in 2007 or 8. I have so much respect for her, and I also think this goes to why this film got trashed the way it did, because this is something I think about a lot in terms of John Waters, who's one of my other favorite filmmakers. And he talks about the fact that to him, his most subversive film is Hairspray, because that is the film that sneaks into the mainstream and is able to get his messages across to this wide group of people that wouldn't be going to something like Female Trouble or Pink Flamingos. That he can get some of that same questioning of society across in a way that the mainstream
palatable.
Accesses. And like you don't even realize what you're swallowing until you've consumed it almost. And I think this film does the same thing in a way that I don't think she was necessarily trying to do something super subversive with Juno. I think she was, doing a character study.
Yeah.
This to me is something deeply subversive
Mm-hmm.
that made it into a vast mainstream. And I think that the mainstream wasn't ready to swallow it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to dig into that a little bit. But so all of which is to say, Diablo Cody's name.
Yeah.
Again, I'm
So
gonna
many
try to
things to
keep
say.
myself on track, but it is difficult. So, this was a name that she came up with. She originally, before she was a screenwriter, she wrote a blog about her experiences as a stripper,
Mm-hmm.
then wrote an autobiography at age 27, which, like, again, what an
Yeah.
icon. Have lived enough life at age 27 to write a full autobiography. And then that autobiography was what got spun into her getting the opportunity to write a screenplay, which was Juno.
Oh, right.
So she was, at the time that she came up with this name, driving through Cody, Wyoming, and listening to the song El Diablo by Arcadia, which,
Just
like,
that simple.
What an icon. But again, like, goes to music, and particularly like early 2000s rock, emo, punk, grunge is like very central to her writing, I think, and very central to this movie. So yeah, I wanted to take a moment to get into some Diablo Cody appreciation, especially just because, like,
it's been a minute since I
been
think
a
she got
minute.
something. I feel like there was a time, and then that's why I forgot this was
We forget this is her.
Yeah.
And which is so interesting to me because I think it's so clearly her voice comes through so strongly. But I feel like, this film came into a culture that was so not ready for it, not just in terms of like mainstream, like very male Hollywood pushing back on it, but also, like, I feel like the kind of feminism we were getting in 2009 was not ready for what Diablo Cody was doing. And wanted her to be something different than she was. And so it was like she was getting attacked on all sides.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get into the reaction to it, a little bit of kind of themes, approach, history behind the writing. And again, there were so many interviews from this. So I've got just a mountain of quotes.
Oh, nice. It feels so good when you find all those quotes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to pick and choose which ones are the most interesting because we just don't have time for all of them. But so talking about genre, particularly horror, quote from Cody. She said, "When I first set out to write this, I intended to write something very dark, very brooding, a traditional slasher movie.
Oh, wow.
And then I realized about a third of the way into the process that I was incapable of doing that because the humor just kept slipping in."
Funny.
And she says, "I have a macabre sense of humor. A lot of things in the movie that are horrifying are funny to me. I've always said I think comedy films and horror films are kind of similar in the sense that you can actually witness the audience having a physical release. They're laughing, they're screaming. It's not a passive experience." And I was like, Linda Williams, you come back again.
Linda.
Body genres. Yes.
No, but it's such a thing too. I think me and you have talked about it, or like even when we were talking about Your Next, and I was like, I found so much humor where like people didn't want to find it, or don't think, or they think they're like mutually exclusive, or at least at that time. Like, I was just like, that those two things
go
are
together.
So intertwined, and again, that you could put them up like separately, like parallel, or overlap them, or like 100%. Blend them.
I think another film that does a similar thing, even though it doesn't get talked about that way, is Get Out, which I think is an incredibly funny horror movie. I mean, obviously it's Jordan Peele.
I know.
So
dark sense of humor.
Dark sense of humor.
Get it, if you know, you know.
Exactly. But again, I think that even that is an interesting one to put up against this, because I think those are two films from brilliant comedic writers tackling horror comedy that get talked about in such different ways. So one of Cody's major reference points for this film was The Lost Boys, which I thought you would get a kick out of.
That's fun.
She said, "On the one hand, I grew up watching these amazing 80s genre movies like The Lost Boys and this and that, and I wanted to honor that. And at the same time, I'd never really seen this particular subgenre done with girls, and so I wanted to try and do a little bit of both."
Oh my God, I love The Lost Boys. What a great reference point.
Right? Well, and she's right. It's like that kind of dynamic is not something we see or saw in 2009, gender flipped this way. I feel like we're starting to see a little more of it.
Yeah.
She also talked a lot about the idea of teenage female friendship as parasitic, which I think is one of the more genuinely frightening aspects of this film. It's real.
Yeah.
It's very real. Yeah. That's 100% my high school experience of closeted queer friendship is parasitism in every possible direction.
Yeah. Oh boy, what's your therapist's name? Can I call her? That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack there.
Again, we're gonna have a lot to get into with this movie. Which I have a little highlighted question for Albert.
I was gonna say, not to jump back, but I love that you went through everyone and like the other things they did. I just totally feel like
I love it. Yes, you're rubbing off on me. So obviously, last episode we were talking about The Witch as a period film. Of a film set in a time period and also a film about periods.
Periods.
How do we feel about this as a period film compared to The Witch? Because part of
my God, I don't even think about that stuff until I'm just like, you would think because we do this podcast, I'd be like, no, I'm gonna watch this with like a critical eye. I'm just like, this is fun. Like no thoughts in my head. Again, you saw my notes. I need to be better. I haven't thought about it like that.
From last episode, you just have a magic mushroom bouncing around your head just as a screensaver.
Hoping it touches the corner. We need to have like an Al's realization corner because I feel like you always do this to me.
Sound effect for that.
Just like the what do you call it, Jeopardy like music playing. How do I feel? Oh my God, I don't know.
Because part of what we were talking about
different than in The Witch because it's such a like that's a. I don't know though, because if you're also because I feel like The Witch, it's like that's a actual like coming of age, like her physical age. This one could probably be that in the sense of like coming into queerdom or like coming into the sense. So like, how did you view it?
I mean, part of the reason I brought it up was because one of the things you had said last episode was that you felt like The Witch would feel very different if it was the same subject matter from a female director. And like in some ways this is similar subject matter, but it is a female director and a female screenwriter.
And a writer,
and so I don't know, I think one of the things that I was really thinking about in terms of that was that to me it feels like the bits of this that are playing with period imagery, particularly she has to like drain men of their blood once a month, whenever we see her like sitting sadly in class.
Isn't like also they do make jokes like PMS isn't real. I love the line about do you have a tampon?
Yes.
I don't know, I thought I'd ask.
I thought you might be plugging. Who says that?
That's what I'm saying. It was almost in those last moments, not to go on it too much, but like where I felt like it was very like Clueless-esque, where it felt like it was trying to bring this language.
My tit.
Yeah, my tit. That's your heart.
I screamed.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it in that context. Again, it's also in contrast, and we can get it into mine, but like you're right, like to a female writer and female director, and then mine in juxtaposition is two males. So, but again, playing with the same thing. I don't know. I didn't think about it in that context.
I think
gonna be honest. Why? It's very apparent that that's a play on that. But.
No, I mean it's what I ended up coming away with was this general sense of like it feels to me like the ways in which that subject matter emerges in this film compared to something like The Witch or to All Cheerleaders Die, which I think also has a lot of period imagery going on in its own way, is that it's not a source of fear in this one. It's a source of comedy. Like the places in which blood comes up, and where we see blood on screen, it's more played for humor and occasionally for disgust than it is for fear, which I think that was the thing that in The Witch, I was like, this feels like a male director to me.
Because there was like
there's this sense of like fear around
Associated,
the presence of the blood, which I was just like,
that makes sense, because I think I had said it too, that like just female or like anyone with a uterus is like really comfortable with just blood in general. I think in like a lot of forms, not just period. It's
exactly
not
that, and that was
we have to deal with it all the time.
and that was my point about the witch, was like, if you have a uterus and you are somebody who has periods, then you aren't afforded the luxury of being scared of blood.
Yeah.
And so it becomes something different instead. And I think it was really interesting to watch this after The Witch and see like it's becoming something different. Yeah. So wanted to get your take on that. She's also obviously playing a lot with the idea of the final girl. Shout out to Carol Clover. She talks a lot about that.
Carol and Linda in this.
I know, we're getting a double dose of film theory. Which I'm also trying to save time for my film theory rant corner, because it's going to be a long one.
Yeah. We all expected this.
Well, I mean, so one of the other things that I wrote down here that I think in terms of seeing her talk about things like the final girl in such a direct way, where like the filmmakers behind this movie are playing with film theory as they're making it, you know, if they're talking about things like this.
Right.
Part of what I loved about it is that this, to me, doesn't feel like a didactic horror film, where like it's not trying to teach you. It's not trying to say, here's the moral right and here's the moral wrong, in a way that even something I love, like Last House on the Left, is taking a very strong moral stance on what it's showing. This film, I don't think cares about the morals basically at all.
It's also like everyone's kind of a piece of shit.
Everyone's a piece of shit, and that's part of the fun of it. And I think that there was something I found really refreshing about that, because I think a lot of the wave of horror that we're in right now is this kind of indie art house horror as allegory for trauma that often is very serious, very heavy, takes itself very seriously. And this is not to say that there aren't a lot of great films that fit into this, but it's like there's a way in which it is very morally didactic. There is like a right and a wrong message that you're supposed to walk out of the film with. And it was really refreshing to watch something that was just like, everybody's a piece of shit.
Yeah, because just even Needy, like making it to the end, you're like, well, damn, like I kind of wanted Jennifer to be okay.
Of course,
at this point,
I'm 100%
she's so
rooting
funny
for Jennifer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right though. We're not really in that era right now, which is, it's weird to kind of dissect the era that we're in now of horror film compared to others, because I feel like I only do that afterwards. So we don't really have a ton of, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like we don't have a ton of everyone's morally gray here.
And I mean, even Needy at the end is like locked up in a psychiatric institution and like kicking nurses across the room, like for no good reason. Like
she's kind of an asshole.
She's kind of an asshole.
I mean,
and like I'm rooting for her still. Like I'm enjoying her being an asshole. I'm just saying she's an asshole.
She's getting hers now.
She's getting hers now. Good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
That's funny though. Yeah.
So just wanted to shout out the moral complexities there. Per what I have noted here is famed source of Naughty's journalism, chud.com. Chud.com. I went into some weird places on Wayback Machine for researching this.
Oh, you would. I gotta learn your methods of researching.
They are eccentric. So Kusama and her team wanted an actual rock star to play Nikolai Wolff.
And then we got Adam Brody.
Yeah, got Adam Brody. Can you guess who the two top choices were?
Maroon 5. Is that why the joke was in there?
No, it's not. But the top choice there is a reference to. That's my clue for you.
That's not a great clue.
So top two choices were Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy. There's the Fall Out Boy poster.
Yeah, the poster behind Jennifer. Yeah.
And Joel Madden of Good Charlotte. So
I was so into Good Charlotte.
I had a feeling you would enjoy that.
I had those CDs. That would have been so good.
I know.
Fall Out Boy would have been 2 on the nose. I feel like Good Charlotte would have been.
I feel like Fall Out Boy, if it was Pete Wentz, you wouldn't be able to watch it and think about anything other than like, oh my god, it's Pete Wentz. You would get pulled out of the narrative.
Yeah.
But
I feel like Good Charlotte was they were kind of not even really that popular anymore by 2009, which is so sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been perfect.
I have theories about why that didn't happen. We'll get to that later. But cast and crew, while we're on the subject though, I found this incredible Megan Fox interview.
God, she was probably a great interview giver. She's bonkers these days with interviews, and I love it. She's unhinged.
Adore Megan Fox.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's to be stated. Megan Fox stands. I don't care if she's doing her weird little thing with MGK right now.
You know what?
She's beautiful.
We've all been there.
And she's just a little weird, and that's fine. I love her.
I love her so much. I should have realized I was queer earlier when we were reading King Lear in high school, and I immediately was like, Megan Fox has a King Lear tattoo.
Oh my God. Yeah. They're like, where is it? On her lower back.
Yeah. They're like, why do you know about this, Siena? I was like, for reasons.
Because she's cool.
I just admire her as an actress.
Yeah. She's a really talented actress. She was American.
She is.
Yeah. She is.
She's a really talented actress.
So watching this, every character she plays, specifically in this, even though she is kind of, supposed to be kind of like a shit friend, and like she says all these sassy things, she's still so lovable. I know. That would have me, especially if I was gay. If I was gay.
I'm sorry.
In high school.
I'm sorry. Pause.
If I was gay one day, if I decided to go.
See, this is what Jennifer's body does. It regresses us back to our high school closeted selves.
You guys, I'm totally straight. I don't know.
Podcast over. Like that's it.
If I was out in high school, is what I was gonna say.
I need to hide in my tidbit.
I need to go to therapy.
Kathleen.
Yeah. If I was out in high school, she would have had me in a goddamn chokehold. I would have probably murdered for her.
Oh, I will murder for her. Like current Siena.
That's why you left the lighter at home.
There you
we have other people in this room. But yeah, anyways, Megan Fox stan. Till the day I die, unless she does something really awful.
I also
then not till I die. Until
until she does something really awful. Yeah. Until she's dead to us.
Yeah.
Until she's undead to us.
Yeah.
I just think that the world has done Megan Fox so dirty, and
I do too.
She's really smart.
She's super.
She's really smart.
Yeah. She knows what she's doing. No one get it twisted.
I think she has an incredible degree of self-awareness that is part of why we get the performance in this movie that we do.
Absolutely. 100%.
Which is one of the things that we're going to talk about when we get to male critics' views of this movie is how much they underestimate the difficulty of the performance she's giving, which I think is actually because we get regular Jennifer before transformation, we get Jennifer post-transformation, and within that we get a progression of different stages of the demon, and I think you can track pretty clearly where she's at in that progression from really careful details in the way she's giving the performance that I just got a lot of respect for the woman.
Yeah.
Respect and other things. So incredible interview where this fucking interviewer condescendingly asks her if she was scared to try this kind of acting after Transformers. And she responded, well, how are they different? Obviously, there's not distractions. There's no robots to distract you from whatever performance I give. So if I'm terrible, you're going to fucking know that it's really terrible. But I was just trying to have fun with it. And I felt like I was able to make fun of my own image as to how some people might perceive Megan Fox to be.
Yeah. Again, she knows exactly what she's doing.
Brilliant, self-aware queen.
And that's why I think, on so many levels, this film works for that. Because it really is just a I don't know if this is a good analogy.
Do it. Do it.
It's nope, not gonna say it.
Yes.
But it really is just
I'm so curious
folding back onto itself. Here's the thing. This is so bad. I have coffee next to me that I desperately need to drink for this to make sense.
All I can think about is you're describing.
I was gonna say a snake eating its own tail, but that doesn't make sense either.
No, it's an Ouroboros. Yeah. See, all I was thinking as you were saying folding was the
folding a cheese.
Yes.
Yeah.
The enchilada.
Yeah. Fold it
from Schitt's Creek.
But it's just so layered in that way because they know. And I think that's to having a female writer, a female director. Amanda Seyfried, she's I think she's
amazing.
grossly underestimated
I
too.
agree. I think she's incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Megan Fox's performance in this, when they go to sacrifice her cry scream is heartbreaking in a way that it shouldn't be.
I have a note.
I like wanted to start crying, which I did not expect for this film.
The moment where we see her get into the van and then Needy make eye contact with her sitting in the van and Jennifer looks at her and they kind of just exchange this moment, I legitimately teared up.
Did you feel sick?
I
also,
felt sick
Needy,
to my stomach.
bad friend. Immediately bad friend. I was not on Needy's side anymore.
No.
I would claw.
Yeah. Either
to
that
not let
or,
my friends.
or I'm fucking getting in that van with you.
Oh, I'm hanging off the side.
Yeah, 100%.
Dragging my fucking feet.
Yeah I'm on the top of that van.
There's no fucking way I would let a friend go in
her.
there. Oh
no way. But the way Jennifer looks at her as that door closes, I was like...
It's like that last little... And it's so subtle.
And that bit of performance, I was like...
Yeah.
Untoppable.
Yeah. That's what I think makes this film going... Like, it could have been categorized in, like, I don't know if slapstick's the right thing, but it could have been categorized in this really goofy, especially with the dialogue, especially with the imagery.
Totally. It could have been very broad.
Yeah, but I think it just, the performances and I think what the actors brought and like the humanity that's brought to the characters is what like keeps it just on that cusp.
Yes.
Like it still, it holds you into, it grounds it a little bit more, even though it is like super silly and goofy. And my God, like even the opening fire is like, what the fuck is happening?
But it's like, there's all of the emotions are real. The situation is heightened, but the emotions are real. And that's like, that's such a hard balance to create. And I think
it really is. That's why nothing feels like this film.
Yeah. It hits home on a really visceral level.
Yeah.
So same awful interviewer asked Megan Fox if the movie was sexy, which like again, let's just take a moment to think about like what kinds of questions she's getting asked in these interviews. Like it's disgusting.
Yeah. Interviews are, I don't know. Looking back.
She even at one point, because they were all getting interviewed together, like the cast and crew. She even at one point calls the interviewer out for asking Diablo Cody more questions than her. She's like, I'm surprised you're not more interested in me. And I'm like, Megan!
Oh my God.
I love.
How old was she in this time?
I should
early 20s?
Probably early 20s, but like, love.
She's such a baddie.
So they asked her if it was sexy, and she said, you better put your fucking sexy shoes on for this movie.
And you know she's just sitting there with a smirk like, you better put your fucking sexy shoes on
she's this movie. I love.
She's, her comedy, people don't, what was I think I was just reading, or it was a TikTok or something this morning that was talking about how women, when like women are funny, in that way, and I think maybe that
women aren't funny.
Well, they're not funny intentionally is really what the discussion was. Men perceive women, or like, you know, generalize, like it's perceived that women are only funny if it's accidental. So like Trisha Paytas, even as like a content creator, and like she's such a troll. She's also, if you look at who she's a fan of, like I don't know if you're familiar with Trisha Paytas. Are you living on this earth? Do you go online?
Have you met me? Of course I'm not living on this earth.
Oh my God. I hope there's collective gasps at people listening to this right now. But she, like a lot of her, she's basically like an internet troll, and she has been since like 2007. But people always think that she's just like stupid and like dumb and whatever. But like some of her favorite comedians are like Andy Kaufman. And if you look at the line from her to Andy Kaufman, like her humor is molded like that. And so this whole discourse, and again, it was kind of like this whole like discussion happening in the threads, but it was talking about how like women can't be funny if it's like we aren't funny and we know it. It's oh, we're like accidentally funny, or like, oh, we just happen to be funny, or like a man has to be like, oh, that was actually pretty funny. And I think it has to go like Megan Fox's like human is that. I think she's just so brilliant, and people look right over it like, oh, she doesn't realize how funny she is. Like she knows. And obviously like Diablo Cody knew writing a character like this that is so meta about Megan Fox and who she is.
100%.
Yeah.
When I think it's like, it goes to like the idea of, are you laughing with or laughing at them? I feel like a lot of people watched this movie and laughed at Megan Fox, thinking that she's unaware of things that she's doing completely intentionally.
Yeah.
So just, yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Let's talk about that kiss, shall we?
Can we?
Yes, we must.
We can't talk about Jennifer's body and not.
I mean,
such a close-up. It was a little jarring. Again, I think maybe that's where the reversion to high school where I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say this too, because I also, like, I've watched Blue is the Warmest Color. I had a reaction watching this film where I was like, they're showing this much gay?
I know. I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? With all the clips I've seen, I never saw that one.
That's so funny, because it was a huge part of the advertising campaign, which is, we're going to get to that in a second. But
it was a lot of gay.
A lot of gay. And, like, you can tell that this was made by queer women.
Yeah.
So I found some actor interviews about the kiss. We have two very different takes.
Oh no. Oh no.
So I found a horrifying time capsule of an interview on AfterEllen.com, which...
After Ellen?
Did you not read this in high school? I read After Ellen in high school.
Is it a gay website?
It sure is. It's a defunct lesbian blog.
Yep, that makes
High School
sense.
Siena was a big time reader.
Yep.
So Amanda Seyfried did an interview that I found on After Ellen where she basically plays the whole kiss off as like a dumb publicity stunt and says, we knew it was going to play a really big role in publicizing the movie. We kind of rolled our eyes at the idea of having to make out, which, like, I read that and I'm like, yes, I remember that point in 2009 when we all had to pretend we weren't interested in kissing Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Like, hilarious. You're not convincing anybody. But
is Megan Fox queer? Isn't she bi?
Oh, Megan Fox is bi.
Yeah.
That's Amanda Seyfried's take, though.
Yeah.
Now we get Megan's take.
She's like, I loved it.
Yeah. Megan, my note says, meanwhile, Megan, bi icon that she is, our bicon queen, said that Seyfried was, quote, extremely uncomfortable, but said, quote, I feel much safer with girls, so I felt more comfortable kissing her than any of the other people I had to kiss.
Yeah.
Which... honestly, even in 2009 was a very gutsy thing for her to say. Like, the fact that she was openly bi at the time she made this movie.
Oh, she was?
She was out of the closet, which, like, again, I don't think we really thought about how much of that was playing into the way she was getting treated in the media.
Yeah. Again, I feel like it was men trying to hold on to this thing that's like, she's just for us.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
So icky.
She's not just for you guys.
Yeah, sorry, Blades.
So, making of, just wanted to shout out that this is another chocolate syrup as blood movie.
Oh.
When, you know, the puking scene when Jennifer first comes back, quote from Megan, we did a few takes where I would just do this scream and sort of puke Hershey's chocolate syrup. And then special effects did a rig that clamps onto my ear. And you revisit it in the pool scene. It clips on, goes around the back of my ear, and then I bite down on the side of my face like this, and it projectiles. So I thought you would like to know some of those
that's
details.
cool.
We've actually got a lot of creature details for this one, which is fun. Actually, not all of the demon Jennifer you see is played by Megan Fox. She says, I actually wasn't in the makeup chair that much because they created an entire head where they did a live cast of me from the shoulders up.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Created me and then put the teeth in. And to save my face, they had a photo double that would come in and do most of the crazy monster makeup. They would do that on her. So it would go from me. Then in post-production, it would somehow go to her and the fake head, and they would mix them together.
Oh, wow.
This is partially because for the bit where her jaw unhinges like a snake, they had to like build a giant fake jaw that was like really heavy and cumbersome. And they were like, we'll save Megan Fox from doing hours of fake jaw work. So
I'm surprised. I don't know why. I feel like I thought it was going to be more CG. I feel like 2009, everyone got real lazy for a minute.
I thought it was going to be more CG too.
Yeah.
And then as I was reading the interviews, all of the creatives, including Diablo Cody actually, even though she's the screenwriter, she's not the director, were talking about how they specifically wanted to do as much practical as possible.
Love that.
Which
I feel like that's what helps hold this, and not
Mhm.
it's time capsuled in like dialogue,
Yes,
but not so much in like visuals. I feel
it's
like it still
time
holds
capsule
pretty.
that's not dated,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah.
Thought you would enjoy this. One of the main struggles that they had in building the creature design was, how do you make a demon that's still hot? So
Of
the
course.
SFX team wanted to, quote, maintain some of the Megan Fox allure.
The foxiness, got it.
They wanted to maintain the foxiness, but they said that it was, quote, incredibly difficult because as soon as they warped her face in any direction, the shine kind of came off of it. So to combat this, they ended up focusing on anything below the nose so that they had the freedom to make things as horrible as they wanted to down there.
That makes sense.
And part of what they would do was they would manipulate it with warps and color correction in her eye sockets, so that even at her worst, she still had some of that sexiness throughout.
I love that was their concern. Like, we have to make sure the monster's sexy.
We have
Otherwise,
to make sure.
everyone would hate this film.
I mean, the monster is sexy. I'll say it.
They did it. They did a good job. They Golo achieved.
I mean, one of my notes from watching was like, honestly, out of all the ways
monsters now.
I said out of all the ways to go, like Megan Fox unhinging her jaw and swallowing your intestines whole is not the worst way.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
stare into her pretty eyes still and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Just don't look below the nose.
So I'd mentioned a little bit about kind of Fox's performance as the demon possession kind of advances. They also, in terms of special effects, had 5 stages of demon in the creation. Stage 1 is beautiful Jennifer, and then stage 2 and 3 are strictly makeup where her eyes became more recessed, and she would start to look more plain like the rest of us. Stage 4 was custom dentures, and then the visual effects in stage 4 were mainly facial warping, recessing her eyes some more, and having a pinning effect to her irises and a variety of other musculature deforms, just bringing her cheekbones down more.
Wow.
Which I thought was super
so much thought,
interesting.
Man.
Yeah, because like I don't know that I would have noticed that had I not read this beforehand.
Right.
But there is an uncanniness to what happens with her face, where it's like you can tell that there is something a little different.
Yeah, you're like, what's off?
But you can't tell what it is. And I think that is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's that uncanny valley that they achieve. And then stage 5 is full on as crazy as it gets, which you don't really see until the end. And they had a lot of back and forth around the jaw piece in particular, because they at first didn't want it to be too over the top, and then they felt like it was ranged too far back, and they felt like it wasn't sexy enough, and then they felt like it was too sexy, and so they made like a whole bunch of different versions of this jaw, and it was like changing from day to day.
I wonder if there's photos of all those different jaws online.
I'm so curious.
Yeah.
So, which like I now want to go back and rewatch those.
Just to pause on those moments. Yeah, because they happen so fast. It's hard to like register.
Yeah. Now we get to the release, which
oh no. This is where the critics critics come in.
So just quick shout out, there was also a Jennifer's Body graphic novel which was released to go along with the film in 2009. Kind of interesting. They made it before the film was released, obviously, so that it could be released at the same time. So the writer hadn't watched the film. He'd only like read drafts of the screenplay, and so it's like kind of different in interesting ways. Premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, and according to all consensus, did not do great. Not with box office, not with critics.
Oh no.
It made back $31.6 million against a $16 million budget, so it didn't totally flop.
Yeah.
But I think this is the lowest rated movie critically that I've discussed so far on the podcast. And it finished number 5 at the box office its opening weekend.
It's not that bad.
But it is when you hear what finished number 1.
No.
Fucking Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I'm going to be honest, that was my favorite book growing up. I'm not your audience for this.
I'm sorry.
Why? That's so funny.
Like, looking back from 15 years later, what is the movie that's had the bigger cultural impact on us? Jennifer's Body or Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs? Like,
that's so stupid. That's
so stupid. Also, one of the difficulties that this faced is that it's very clearly an R-rated film, which
that's gonna impact though, because the audience again, they didn't think about their
teens. It's so
I didn't realize it was fucking you gotta think Megan Fox and fucking Amanda Seyfried. When did because Mean Girls came out in high school, so yeah, she was big off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fucked up. That's
It's
where,
tough.
what did I discuss where they decided to go back down to PG-13?
It might have been your next, actually.
Yeah, it was like one of them they realized that it was like, oh, Disturbia.
Disturbia.
They were going to do an R, but they knew they had Shia LaBeouf, and they were like, we can't cut our audience in half.
Yeah.
So that's where they fucked up.
Which, although looking back on it, I'm like, I'm so glad we didn't get the PG-13 version of this movie, because the dialogue would have been so
it would have been tame.
We wouldn't have gotten some of those like cutting lines, and I feel like this would have done so much better now when it could have been released with more streaming.
Yeah.
Because it's really that kind of a movie. But, you know, that kind of, I think that speaks to part of why it didn't do as well at the box office as people expected.
Yeah.
However, this is where I get really angry.
This is where
I get really angry. None of the rest
just
of
right
this
now.
was me angry. The rest of this was me excited.
Yeah.
They look very similar. So let's pause on those numbers for a second. This was the follow-up to Juno, which is a debut feature that earned Diablo Cody an Oscar again. So comes right out the gate, has an Oscar. This is coming right off the heels of Juno. It sold right off of that, so it's got she's coming in with a ton of buzz. Stars a giant star from Transformers, produced by a major studio, and it's made for $16 million. Cabin in the Woods, $30 million.
The bong. Remember the bong?
Remember the bong. But $30 million. First time director, no Transformers star, no Oscar, gets almost twice the budget. Like less than 2 years later. And Cabin in the Woods got $30 million, made about 66.
Was it 30 or 40?
It was 30.
It was 30? Okay.
Made about $66 million. So even comparable in terms of the return on investment.
Yep.
So this film got almost half the budget and was considered a box office flop, while this directorial debut, produced a couple years later, had such a different experience. And that's not to criticize Cabin in the Woods for the bong budget, it's just to say there's a disparity there that I think we've got to look at. And Cody herself has pointed out that a big part of the struggle that this film faced was the marketing was a big problem. She said execs, quote, wanted to market this to boys who like Megan Fox. That's who's going to go see it. And I was like, no, this movie's for girls too. That audience, they did not attempt to reach, which is like fascinating looking back on, because now it's like, this is a movie for the girlies, right?
Yeah.
This is
Megan Fox is like why I went to Transformers.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely. This is a movie for queer femmes.
Yeah.
Like,
again, cutting the audience.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, on the one hand, the rating is like creative artist, like integrity.
For sure.
But to cut, you can really fuck up a film with the marketing.
Really fuck up a film. And yet it still did that well. Like, it still earned more than twice its budget back. And yet got looked at as this horrible flop, and she didn't make movies for several more years.
I don't really see that as a flop. Like, you're on there.
I know.
Not very low.
So, reception has a 46% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. So, which, like, weird, because
this might be our two lowest Rotten Tomatoes
I think so.
scores.
And, like, it's interesting because this is a beloved film, right? And I don't think just in a camp way, which, like, you know, what I'm talking about next episode, I think, is beloved in a camp way.
Yeah.
This, I think, means a lot to people on a deeper level. And I think largely because of, like, the queer experience it's depicting and the relatability of that. And, of course, there's, like, now coming to be a reappreciation of it. There's, like, think pieces being written about it. But I think that it hasn't quite made that transition from, like, cult to canon yet. And so now we get to some of my horrible, horrible quotes from reviews from the time. We'll start out with a relatively innocuous one from Roger Ebert, our good old friend, our boy. Liked it more than a lot of critics at the time. Gave it 3 out of 4 stars.
I kind of feel like he kind of pulls through sometimes on the ones that like we really like. He's there for the horror people. I feel like
he is. He likes the weird shit.
Yeah, he does.
But he called it, get this, a Twilight for boys. Yeah, that was my reaction.
I haven't seen Twilight. I don't really know what goes on there. But
I maintain that they are cult masterpieces. However, Twilight for boys?
Yeah.
My note
that
here...
feels like not a very sophisticated thing to say.
My note is, has there ever been a film that screams made for the girlies more than Jennifer's Body? And this was actually one of 3 different reviews that compared the film to Twilight, which I think is fascinating.
What
Yeah. Which, like, they're so
I'm not
going to
watch Twilight in order to find
to.
out the comparison, but
like, basically a lot of people just didn't get the genre straddling this was doing. They wanted it to be funnier or scarier or both, and I think that what's so brilliant about it is the exact balance that it achieves.
It was its own thing.
It's its own thing.
Yeah. Twilight.
Nick Pinkerton from Sci-Fi Weekly called Fox and Seyfried's kissing scene, quote, the best up-close girl-girl lip lock since Cruel Intentions, which I just felt like I needed to put out there that, again, this is the
shower.
This is the world that this was released into. This is the world that we came into gay.
Yeah.
How awful.
Yeah. and coming into gay and then being like, I was only gay because guys thought it was hot.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah, no, that's totally why.
Yeah. No, it's just for
Which
them.
it's that was the perspective. Yeah, 2009. That really was. That was a fight.
It was a rough
I mean,
time.
I went to art school and film school, so like
same.
All of us were gay, so kind of like
still
helpful.
bad.
Yeah,
and
like, it was just bad everywhere else.
Yeah.
I feel like I was luckily kind of in this bubble where it was like everyone was like, like of course we're all gay, we're all in film school, we're all
I was still in
tough.
high school. This was released my freshman year of high school, and
wow.
I was like right in the age range for it, and like
that.
it. Oh my god! It really was like a visceral reminder of how homophobic things were in 2009.
Yeah, still
So here's my worst male review quotes. Joe Neumeier of New York Daily News said,
it's an
Fox
annoying name.
Merely needs to look either vacant or evil, which the Transformers boy toy does spookily well, but the movie as a whole is filled like a Twinkie with half-fleshed out ideas.
Sir, sit down. Talking about Twinkies.
I'm sorry, would anybody describe a male director's like teen sex comedy as filled like a Twinkie with half fleshed out ideas?
Honestly, he just makes it. Again, they just dig their own hole, so good for them because they sound like assholes.
I mean, true.
It was filled like a Twinkie. Like, I'm sorry, you're supposed to be a film critic.
Michael Sragow of the Baltimore Sun said, no one's going to like this movie for its brain.
I don't like his reviews for his brain.
Yeah. What? Like,
again, they just
who allowed this to be published?
Here's my thing with, we need to have a critic on this, like on this podcast at some point, because I think there's a way to criticize where you can be harsh.
Yes.
And I think you can not like something and that's okay.
Yes.
But I also think there's like a dialogue to be had
Absolutely.
other than like this movie's dumb.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Like like I can't, what can I take from that? Nothing. I just feel like some of these critics are like,
I also just think the audacity of how acclaimed Juno was and how many people wrote about how smart Diablo Cody is and was as a writer coming off of that, for them to not watch this and be like, okay, maybe I'm not getting something.
Yeah, like there's some and that's the thing. I just don't feel like
it just went so far above their heads. My last and I think funniest bad male reviewer quote from the time period. San Francisco Chronicle's Peter Hartlaub said, the chances that it will be somebody else's pop culture reference 27 years from now are slim to none. Bitch, it took less than a decade.
Dummy. Eating your own words now, buddy.
I love to see it. So
That's funny.
Just got some joy out of that.
Yeah, you gotta film critic.
Yeah, thought you would enjoy that.
Idiot.
Let's see. I'll give one good modern take on the film, and then I'll do my film theory rant corner because I know we're running out of time. But I wanted to shout out Carmen Maria Machado, who is an amazing bi horror author who we carry at Beasley. So shout out to Beasley Books. Go check out some Carmen Maria Machado. She's an amazing writer.
Cool.
I really love her short story collection, Her Body and Other Parties. It's amazing.
Cool.
This is one of her favorite films, and she writes about it specifically as a bi person, what it means to her, and said, what it means to experience parallel sexualities with your best friend as you punch through the last vestiges of childhood, that central body of water that is bisexuality. And I was just like, oh, chef's kiss, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like that's somebody this film was made for.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, earlier this year, Cody herself said she wants to do a sequel to this, but still hasn't found anybody who believes in the idea, who will put the money behind it to do it right. And it's like 2024, 15 years later, we're kind of still here. And it's been really hard for her because I found a quote from her looking back on it where she says, at first I just thought, oh, where was this audience when I needed it? And then I realized they were like 7. It was a rough experience having that movie come out. It was rough for me. It was rough for Megan. And then people suddenly started talking about it like it was a good movie, which I'd thought it was all along. And like, I just thought that's really poignant. And like, I'm glad that it's getting this reappraisal, but also like, we did these femme creators really dirty. So Film Theory Rant Corner.
With props.
With props. You know, Devin Ludlow told us that we should be bringing in more props, so I decided let's take it to the classroom. Let me bring in my textbook today.
What does it say?
This is, for those of you who aren't watching, this is the out-of-print book, Sexuality in the Movies, edited by Thomas R. Atkins.
Great cover.
I got this copy at the Strand about 5 years ago. This is...
I love that you already have this. Of course you already have this.
I wasn't reading this... I want to see
your bookshelf so bad.
I was not reading this for my Film Theory Rant Corner. I was reading this for light reading to fall asleep last night. Because this is what I do with my time. This is what I do with my time, Al. And then I came across this passage and I was like, well, this is perfect for my Film Theory Rant Corner. So allow me to read from the text. Or wait, I have my citation here first. This is page 149 from the essay Monster Movies, A Sexual Theory by Walter Evans. Ernest Jones explains the vampire myth largely as a reflection of mysterious physical and psychological development, which startles many adolescents, nocturnal emissions. Quote, a nightly visit from a beautiful or frightening being who first exhausts the sleeper with passionate embraces and then withdraws from him a vital fluid. All this can point only to a natural and common process, namely to nocturnal emissions accompanied with dreams of a more or less erotic nature. In the unconscious mind, blood is commonly an equivalent for semen, and the vampire's bloodletting of women who suddenly enter into full sexuality, the werewolf's bloody attacks, which occur regularly every month, are certainly related to the menstrual cycle, which suddenly and mysteriously commands the body of every adolescent girl. So the reason that I brought this in was to talk about succubuses.
Succubi.
Succubi. Thank you.
Succubi icons.
Succubi icons.
Siena said that earlier, not me. They're the funny ones.
Thank you for giving me credit. I read this and I was like, okay, clearly what this is talking about is the idea of the succubus on screen, which is a creature that creeps into men's rooms and steals their life force at night. There's also a gender-swapped version of this, which is the incubus, which is a man that creeps into women's rooms and steals their life force at night.
Predators.
Yeah, well, just kidding. I was just about to make a terrible joke. Not gonna go there. My man hating has seen enough on this episode. But I was thinking about that and I was interested because when you've got that kind of a dichotomy, where do bis fit in? And I was like thinking about this because when you're talking about succubuses and incubuses, those are like inherently straight monsters. There's like, it has to be a cross-gender dynamic for it to be an incubus or to be a succubus. And I think part of what is so fascinating on a film theory level and on like a history of monster movies level about Jennifer's body is that when Jennifer tells us that she goes both ways before she gets stabbed to death, she essentially, here's what my quote from my notes from last night, she essentially becomes something in between incubus and succubus, a uniquely bi seduction monster.
And you were like, aha.
Yes. An incubi.
It is. Well, she also says that to, she's like, are you gonna, like, when they're on the bed after the kiss, I think it is, or before the kiss, they do talk about, like, I think Amanda Seyfried is like, are you gonna like kill me, or why have you killed me or something? And she's just like, well, I like you. So I think there's also just the idea of, and again, this is gonna be a whole other thing, but within that, I think being my relationships with people across genders are inherently different, and they just are. So I think there can be this like, I don't want to say like harshness if you date like men versus women. Like, it is a softer relationship. So I think her having that choice too of like, I'm gonna be more soft with like you know what I mean?
It's gonna be different from gender to gender. Yeah. And that doesn't make one.
Sequel would be interesting because it could delve into like what maybe she does kill women, but like what does that look like in comparison? Is it like, do they not see it coming? And like, is that like the, you know what I mean? Whereas the men, it's like, I want you to feel fear.
100%. And that was part of what I was interested in reading this quote about like nocturnal emissions, was like, that is tying the imagery of the succubus so much to like a woman preying on men. And when she says she goes both ways, well then what is she taking from women? Because it's not semen.
Yeah. So I'd be so curious. Oh, I love that.
So I just again, the complex gender and sexual dynamics that come up when you get bi screenwriters and bi actors portraying a bi experience. Yeah. There's just a lot more to delve into there.
Oh my God, Finley from Love Word Generation Q. I also was just watching her on a podcast, and she was inherently talking about how you don't have to always have queer people play queer characters, but it's different when she wasn't playing the character Finley with that guilt of like being gay and like a Christian household, you wouldn't get the same performance. Exactly. So I think it is. I love that. I think it's really interesting. Right.
So on that note, do we want to?
We're jumping on over to my high school
over to some cheerleader time?
Yes, some other.
Shall we take a pause for the camera?
We'll be right back.
We know how much you love stories of horror and gore. Meet our sponsor, Beasley Books, the independent bookstore owned by author George R.R. Martin in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beasley specializes in autographed titles, rare editions, and speculative fiction, which includes sci-fi, fantasy, and of course, horror. You can find many authors whose adaptations we've covered at Beasley, including Stephen King, Clive Barker, and more, alongside the likes of Nick Cutter, Shirley Jackson, and Anne Rice. Visit the Santa Fe storefront Wednesday through Sunday at 418 Montezuma, or shop online anytime. I don't know why I'm Irish now, but you can find them at BeasleyBooks.com or on Instagram at BeasleyBooks418. And make sure you use code SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. Bye.
I know why I didn't watch this movie. I saw that poster, and I knew that I could not watch this movie and stay in the closet to myself. I was like, that poster alone was so hot to high school Siena that I was like, if I watch the whole film, there is no way I can maintain the illusion of my straightness shove it back in myself. Yeah. So I think I needed to wait until I was openly.
Yeah. Real comfortable.
Yeah. Real comfortable.
So
yeah.
I feel like, so jumping into this film, so All Cheerleaders Die, I feel like if I would have seen this at that time, it would have just busted that door right down.
Yeah. So there goes that closet. Smashed.
Completely ripped open. So I'm just gonna ask off the bat. Yeah. So you had never seen this. I feel like this film is like nowhere, and I want to say I don't even know how I stumbled upon it.
I was gonna ask you.
I think it was just one of those things. I saw it maybe like 2015-ish. I want to say
like a couple years after it was
released.
Maybe.
It all the time kind of blends together.
What is time?
Really? Yeah, what is time? I want to say, I mean, maybe even later. I feel like I streamed it somewhere or something. I don't want to say I like rented it from like a Redbox or whatever. Don't know how I came upon it. I feel like it's one of those things that like it presented itself to me. Because it was like,
you found a mysterious crystal on your front doorstep one time, and the projection of the movie popped up from it.
I also think this was when I saw this. It was still at a time that I was openly queer, but I don't think I was fully comfortable, and I still feel like I was allowing the male gaze or like male relationships to really like
It takes
direct
a long time.
who I was in my queerdom. So I think this was probably one of those like secret watches where I was like, oh my god, they're so hot.
They're so hot.
So
especially the witch.
Yeah.
So
oh my god.
hot.
Yeah. Very up your alley. I feel like you could absolutely cosplay her too. But what
I
was
have a type.
Yeah. But yeah, so I watched it, immediately loved it, and I feel like literally no one talks about it. So I'm curious to know what you thought of it, because I feel like I don't know if I'm in my own little world, my own bubble, but
I have to preface this. I'm glad we're talking about this before you can see my Letterboxd review. I did not rate it that high.
I mean,
However,
there's a lot of imperfections on like a visual level.
It's not like a good movie.
Totally.
However, I had such a good time.
Yes, it's a good time movie.
Let me just say, like, again, anybody who sees this on my Letterboxd, don't let the star rating like scare you away from watching
What'd you rate it too?
I think I like a 2 or 2.5.
Siena, you're tough. You're tough on Letterboxd.
I'm tough on Letterboxd. But this movie felt to me the same way that I feel watching like a really good schlocky 50s or 60s B movie, just like teleported into the modern day.
Yeah.
Because of the way in which it felt, I'm assuming this is very low budget. It felt...
I couldn't find the budget, so I'm sorry. I don't have it, but I feel like it was probably pretty tiny.
I was watching this and I was like, this feels like it was maybe $100,000. I think small. And when you're working in that kind of budget range, when you don't have any major studios breathing over your shoulders, you have a lot more freedom. And so I never knew where this film was going next.
When I told you, so I like preface again, I'll read the description of it, but like this movie hits like 5 different like horror genres, and it's so, but it like weirdly works in this very chaotic way.
No, that was my like 1-sentence summary on Letterboxd, was like, this feels like it's like 50 movies rolled into one, but mostly in a good way.
Yeah.
Like
which was intentional, and we'll get to that. So it was intentional.
I was like, the number of times that I like scream laughed during this movie.
Yeah.
Like I was delighted by how little idea I had where it was gonna go.
Yeah,
next.
you can't predict the twist or the turns.
Or the tone.
Yeah.
It's like it is. I could never tell if the movie wanted me to be laughing at it or not, and that was really fun too.
Oh,
like
interesting.
It was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had a great time.
Okay, good.
Great time.
It's definitely a good time movie. So
Yes.
the description, so 2013, because Siena reminded me. The description of this film is a rebel girl signs up a group of cheerleaders to help her take down the captain of their high school football team. But a supernatural turn of events thrusts the girls into a different battle. Which, again, I feel like that's such a boiled down summary of just the bonkersness that is this film.
I mean, when I started watching it, I sent you a text and I was like, is this the horror version of John Tucker Must Die?
Yeah.
Because it's like a very similar premise. This goes so many different
I know. I didn't know how to like explain to you. I was like, kind of, but like I think I kept saying just wait or something.
And
like
boy,
that.
were you right. The number of times I almost took a live reaction of the last like 15 minutes of the movie, because it's so many different genres
just goes off
rolled
the
into
rails
one.
and it never comes back. We obviously have like the typical like cheerleader high school setting. You know, we have the big bad football player and like the boys.
Yes.
All the girls seem really like bitchy on the cheerleading squad. We have our main like lesbian characters. And then it just goes into like zombies and witchy, and then there's like stoners, and then there's like
what isn't there?
Just actual like horror and insidiousness happening.
Yeah.
It kind of hits.
It hits
It's hard to explain. I just tell people to watch it because it's just fun.
Yeah.
I just feel like it doesn't. This definitely doesn't take itself too seriously either in any way. So
it was a fucking riot.
Yeah.
It was
It's just one of those ones like on a Sunday afternoon. I always say this, you can just like put it on and like in the background, and it's just like there's good one-liners and I don't know, man.
And bad special effects, which I love.
Yeah,
I love.
If you're looking for something, it's funny because I'm gonna go into the cinematography of this, and I think it's so funny because I don't know if it's just the version that's online, but it's like it's such
so
bad quality.
It's so bad.
So this is gonna be like, it's not to be mean, but there still was thought that went into this, which I appreciate, and I think this is one of the things, like, just make your film if you want to make it.
100.
And like, you know, you can still have thought, even though everyone can look at it and be like, that looks kind of like crap. But you can still have it and make it. And,
well, and like it brought us joy. And like I'm laughing with it as somebody who makes low and no budget movies and knows what this is like.
Yeah.
Like, we can't take ourselves too seriously. It's not that this was a failure. It was like, it was extremely successful at entertaining me.
Yeah.
It's terribly shot.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if it was
I don't know if it's intentional or not.
I don't think it was. But it's okay. So we're not going to hate on our writer-director team. So they both wrote it together and directed it together.
Yeah.
We have Lucky McKee, and then we have Chris. What do I have? Siverston? Did I write that wrong?
Good.
Siverston?
Good.
I want to put an L in there so bad.
I feel like Lucky McKee sounds like the character that plays opposite Diablo Cody in the 1950s screwball comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Lucky McKee and
Lucky
Diablo
McKee
Cody.
And Diablo Cody. Yeah, right?
In. Cheerleaders' bodies.
Jennifer's Die.
Yeah, all Jennifer's Die.
All Jennifer's Die.
That'd be a great one.
I would watch that.
Yeah. That's the sequel.
Yeah.
So Lucky McKee directed a movie, May, in 2002. It looks really familiar to me. The premise is like absolutely bonkers. About a veterinarian with like a wonky eye. I'm not gonna say anymore.
I'm sorry, tell me the title again.
May. Like MAY. 2002. And then both these have only done like indie films, which I appreciate it for that we can still appreciate all these. Again, I think that's why horror is so fun. Is like they don't have to be perfect to be good.
Exactly.
To us in our hearts.
They don't have to be perfect to bring you joy.
Yeah. So he did May. If it looks really familiar. And
after watching this, I like genuinely am curious about May now. The wonky.
We might have to watch it as like a bonus episode because it's again you read the description later. And then he also did The Woman. I've noticed his like kind of history is a lot of like female focused, like horror adjacent or like just female character driven stories. Chris did I Know Who Killed Me, which was actually a 2007 film starring Lindsay Lohan. Amazing. Never seen it, didn't know she did it.
Amazing.
We have the cinematographer Greg Ephraim. And he's done
a terrible job, buddy. I love you.
He's done a bunch of music videos though.
Cool. It feels very music video-y.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Very, again, lots of different shots. So he did a bunch of videos for band Rival Sons, the Gaslight Anthem, one for A Day to Remember, and then Billy Ray Cyrus and Nickelback.
Amazing. God,
this fans of those two,
such
but
a high school time capsule.
Yeah. So he's done some stuff.
Things have been done.
He's a very lovely website. So it's starring Caitlin. I'm so bad at reading names. I really need to like watch interviews where they say their own name. Stacy as Maddie, which I'm gonna go on a little tirade about her because I love her.
She was great.
She's an Australian actress.
Oh.
She was
Good American
Laura.
accent.
I know. There's two Australian actresses in this. She was Laura in the 2022 Smile. I don't know if you watched that.
I haven't seen it.
She was like the face of the poster.
That's why she looks familiar. Okay, got it.
Yeah, which I think is still. I want to talk about it at some point. I still think that's one of the most brilliant marketing campaigns that we ever got.
Yeah.
In the last like at least decade, if not one of the top 5.
I feel like that would be a great one for the podcast.
Yeah, it's just I would love to talk about her again. So I also I did this. So I looked her up on Google versus IMDb, and I saw this little tiny picture pop up, and I was like, "There looks like there's a lesbian in that photo with her," because that's me. I'm like, that's a lesbian if I've ever seen one. So I was like, is she queer?
Yeah.
She doesn't identify as anything, but she is queer. She's not straight. And she founded a female-owned pornography company called Afterglow, and their tagline is
Wait, I've
porn.
heard of them.
It looks phenomenal. So porn by women for everyone. And their website is like really empowering, and it's focused on like consent and also a lot of educational things. I wrote down the website. I was like, exoafterglow.com, please sponsor us.
Please.
I just love
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
I just thought that was a really fun thing. I think that adds to this this film is
100%.
for those of you who haven't seen it, which I'm assuming is every single
Everybody,
person.
yeah.
It is a very like the characters are queer.
Yeah.
We know that almost immediately. We have 2 queer characters in this. And it's
queer in a very real way too.
real in a very, especially made by 2 men.
Yeah.
You know, writing and directing a film about queer teens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in like those 2 queer characters are also like, they're not the cheerleaders.
Right.
They are like these outcasts.
Oh, the second that Lena came in,
you're like
dressed
me.
in all black, carrying the cat that she's named after her girlfriend, I was like, oh no!
I knew you were gonna love this movie. That you're like, that is Siena. That is me. Yeah. So it's just kind of fun to see. She's kind of the only one that seems like she's really like done a few things recently. I feel like some of these other actors
she
done like
was
a
definitely
couple.
the best actor.
Yeah, again, probably a small budget, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah,
some of these
no,
actors
absolutely.
really haven't done a ton at all
Mhm.
afterwards. So we have Rhiannon Johannick as Martha. She was in I Survived a Zombie Holocaust and like literally hasn't done much else.
Amazing.
I know. Yeah.
I need to watch that.
She's
now.
not acted like since. Amanda Grace Bennett as Hannah, who she's like the younger sibling in the dog suit, which I think is so funny. It's such a funny little thing.
It took me so long to understand what was going on with the body swap with the 2 sisters.
Oh yeah, they Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday thing.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
there's a lot going on.
Oh yeah,
in
there's
this
that
movie.
aspect too. I forget.
There are 50 different movies going on in this.
Can't
movie.
decide what horror movie to watch. Watch All
this.
Cheerleaders Die.
It's
It's
all of
everything.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got witchcraft. It's got
there's like a lot of the craft in there.
Yeah.
It's everything.
It weirdly
It is
works.
every horror movie in one.
We have Brooke Butler as Tracy, who I had the
Which one is
biggest,
Tracy?
the blonde. I had the biggest crush on her. I also thought she has the most beautiful hair I've ever seen in my
She does
entire
have really
life.
gorgeous hair.
So
I was so obsessed with the goth girl.
Yeah,
I
you
just,
couldn't
like,
look
had
past.
eyes for nothing else. Yeah,
couldn't see past.
Couldn't see past her.
She was in a couple episodes of Ozark and the TV series Creepshow.
Oh, very cool.
And we have Siona Smith McPhee.
I saw her name and got weirded out. I was like, I've never seen a
Almost
spelling
Siena?
that's like that close to my name, but isn't in that way before.
Yeah.
That was the first. Yeah.
So
Siona.
she's the other Australian actor. So your
Is
girl.
that an Australian name?
I don't know. Don't ask me these questions. I can barely pronounce anyone's name.
Siona's right in.
She was in she had a reoccurring role, like 35 episodes on the show Hung. I never watched that. And the Kettering Incident. I don't know what that is either. And then we have Tom Williamson as Terry, which he was in the Fosters TV show. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I haven't watched it.
And then the movie Run, Hide, Fight.
Okay.
And that's kind of my download of them. I think those are the main. There's a lot of side characters in this that are like phenomenal and great, even with the limited amount of screen time that they have. They hit all the tropes, I think.
Sure do.
So development of how this bonkers movie came to be.
This must have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this must have been a really hard one to research. I feel like there can't have been a ton of info.
Literally, I started research Friday.
Oh God.
Usually I do like a Monday and then we record Tuesday. I started on Friday, and I remember starting it, and I'm gonna be like, I fucked myself. I thought I fucked myself. I was like, this movie, like nobody talks about it. I see it nowhere. It's never referenced. I was like, I'm not gonna find anything.
Yeah.
I could have used your way back whatever research.
Way back machine. I'll send you a link. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. I luckily found a decent amount. I found some interviews. So a lot of what I pulled from was interviews. I have some of my sources, like there was like a Vulture article on it, EW, and then it was kind of like these weird Hollywood Reporter actually. And then like a lot of blogs.
Oh, okay.
Again, much like Jennifer's Body, obviously this went straight to, I want to say this went like straight to DVD. I don't think this went anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, was fortunate enough to find enough stuff, but I was like, I should never do this to myself again because I fully panicked. I was like, I'm just going to show up talking about cheerleaders and all the weird shit that happened and then just like lean on your film theory.
I mean,
which I don't have to. So
I could have just like read from this for an entire episode.
I just read the cast list and I'm like, Siena, thoughts?
How do you think Siona's spelled?
Yeah. Do you think that's Australian? So no, I found some stuff. So development, it was Lucky McKee, the writer-director. He actually remade this film after his first film of the same name. He thought was like, that one also went straight to video and was very hard to find. Was
it also called All Cheerleaders Die?
It was. So they wrote it, and him and Chris wrote it and directed it in 2001. It was also a high school horror film called All Cheerleaders Die, and it was done on a shoestring budget. So it's like this one was even less. The original concept, this original concept was, dealt with the battle of the sexes, the feud between like the football players and the cheerleaders. The cheerleaders are obviously still killed in that one. It's like, again, still kind of like the football players' fault. And then they come back for revenge. But in the original film, they come back as rotting zombies. So I only can imagine. Apparently, I think it's like scraped from the internet.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So making the new script, they said they wanted to not lose control, or not lose like the cool characters, so like the zombie aspect and all that, because they kind of got like attached to them. But they realized they needed to like tone it down a little bit. Which again, if you've seen, like, please everyone watch this film because I can't.
You will have a good
imagine
time. This
is like even the toned down version of the one that happened like 12 years
This
prior.
is the like realist take on all cheerleaders.
They were like, yeah, this could actually happen. So they redid it and then it premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, which I love. I would be so
That's amazing.
I can't really find like, again, that's where I couldn't really find like budget or like a lot of quotes from it. I think probably any quote that would come from the film festival were probably not great.
Probably.
The cinematographer Greg, this was his feature film debut. He admitted he never saw the original and that they refused to show him the original, that they wanted him to have a fresh slate. Which there's like this lore around this film that I love and I want to see it so bad. He's like, please, no, you do not.
Yeah.
That won't help you here.
That will only hurt you.
It will only hurt you.
It will only hurt me.
And a fun tidbit. Is that Cecil B. DeMille, Alfred Hitchcock, Michael Mann, and these filmmakers have in common are they all remade movies that they had themselves previously directed. So they're in a little club with Alfred Hitchcock. Is this film on par with Psycho?
Yes.
Maybe. You be the judge.
In terms of amount of times that I laughed during it, far higher than Psycho.
Yeah. This is not a film to truly, again, everything I think film theory too as we get to it. It's very obvious, I think, the direction they were going. And I think it is like not every film has to be this big film conversation,
sometimes
but I do think it does
fun.
bring up some stuff.
Yeah.
So production. This was a 24-day shoot in LA. One of the locations was the Cathedral High School near Chinatown. And the school was actually founded in 1925 and is located on what was the old cavalry cemetery prior to 1900.
Ooh,
and so the high school was
haunted.
It is. So it was, and it was also designated a historic cultural monument in 1984. And the athletes are nicknamed the Phantoms because of the school's location on top of a cemetery.
Oh my God.
Which is like
I love
great and also
that.
like so morbid.
Yeah.
You're like, this is cheeky, so we can all be screaming. I'm like, that's bad juju.
That's,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's how, bad karma comes your way when you start to do that. Although I love it.
Also so funny to me that they were shooting at a high school whose actual mascot was ghosts, and they decided to change it for this ghost story to dogs.
I wonder if they just couldn't give the nod. I wonder because
might
shooting
be a
in
copyright issue.
And also, I think shooting in high schools is like such a tricky thing for films. If there's any like sexuality,
That's a good
like
point.
themes or like nudity or swear words or like the girls all have an orgasm all over campus. So
Okay, yeah, let's
a shared
talk about
orgasm
that for a second.
Thoughts, feelings, expectations,
questions, concerns.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, you're like, I have nothing. I just wanted to.
I just want to talk about it.
So the Stones.
Yeah. Okay. What?
Make all their bodies connect.
Okay.
There's plot holes.
I need to ask a question.
Uh-huh.
Where are the Stones?
I don't know. Like Gwyneth Paltrow, they're just like up the.
That's what I was wondering.
You know, or
like,
the one
like
isn't. Oh wait,
one seems to be in the forehead. The rest of them are like glowing in their stomachs.
Maybe like little trolls. They're like the belly buttons. I hate belly buttons. We can't talk about that for too long. Love that trolls didn't have
just
one.
Your
they
first
just had
mouth.
The belly. Oh, Siena. If you, I'm gonna bring a wax figure in here.
Oh God.
We know each other's downfalls now. Don't know, but they have stones inside them that connect them all together.
They sure do, and give them orgasms. Yeah.
The hive mind.
I mean, again, anybody who's been in a group of queer femme friends will attest the hive mind is real.
Yeah,
it does happen.
I don't even know how to like segue into this. So
just
fun fact
jump
about
right in.
cemetery, and then going into they got to shoot on the Universal backlot. For a small budget. I think they found it really cool. So they had 2 reshoot days or like pickup scenes that they had to do, and 2 of those they actually got to shoot on the Universal backlot, and they all were like, it was something like fun and different. Being such a small crew, you know, being able to kind of do something like that was like they were all really giddy about it, which I really think is like fun. Again, I think you can feel the joy from them to screen. They also shot in a cemetery. Oh, I forgot to. I was gonna like look up the cemetery in Altadena, California, where they actually have like a movie grave in the cemetery that's specifically for filmmakers to go and shoot at. I wonder if Lisa Frankenstein had scenes in there.
I love that.
And so that's where that like end scene they shot that that's all.
So cute.
There. But I was like, imagine like going and like mourning somebody in a cemetery. I hope it's far away.
Yeah, in like a separate area from the actual like the human graves.
Yeah. And they're just like someone filming. It's like a zombie.
I'd honestly, if it's mixed in with the rest of the graves, I would prefer to be buried in a place like that. I would like my grave.
Me and you would be like put us right next to that.
I would like my grave to be donated to the movies. That would be great. Yeah. Nice. Use my grave to shoot at.
Yeah. Just put a little bit of dirt over me. It's fine. Pretend I'm not there.
Yeah. Just toss me in the ground. I'm done.
Just give me credits as an extra.
Do you watch Always Sunny?
No, you ask me this every episode.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. There's like
the answer will always be no.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I can't say that without thinking of the bit where Frank's like, "Just throw me in the trash. I'm dead. I don't care. Just throw me in the trash.
Just throw me in the grave.
Throw me in the trash."
So here's where we get into like the look of this film.
Oh, what a look it is.
Oh my god, I hope you guys can't hear this atrocious
dentist
saw
drill going on in the background. Yeah,
I feel like Santa Fe is sometimes like LA where it's just constant construction. So, you know.
Well, and it never finishes. That's the thing.
Yeah, same like LA.
Yeah.
Just there's always it's like, oh, that you're doing okay.
Yep. Great.
So going into the look of this film, so the cinematographer said that he obviously you noted this that he wanted to have this like sleek, slick music video feel, but obviously going towards like the grittier horror.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if it's like Dawn of the Dead where like maybe just the quality online is really shitty because I felt like it was really blown out in a way that I can't imagine as much thought. Like I have a decent amount of cinematography notes that I just can't imagine that's what it actually looked like. So I'm really hoping if there's a better version or if I can find a DVD.
It very much had like there's a specific kind of color correction that I feel like was very popular at this time period. That's very,
I feel like
contrast heavy. Like the contrast gets blown
it's
out.
very like MySpace-esque.
Yes.
It feels.
You know what it is? It feels like it's edited like the way we edited still photos for social media at that time.
Where everyone's nose was blown out.
Yeah,
No one
it's
had a
like-
nose.
It's almost like the whole movie feels like it got like an Instagram filter put on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not intentional, I'm sure. So about 60% of this film was handheld and the rest with dolly or Steadicam, which makes like it feel definitely like it was packed with a lot of action, I thought, with all the handheld. So to go along with that, he also noted that to create this, again, very intentional hectic pace, he would actually stay back and kind of follow the action. He said it would help it purposely feel like the camera couldn't catch up to the girls or to the action. And he said, quote, "We wanted it to feel like these high school girls were so frenetic.
Yeah, that's
I feel like it's frantic is the word I would use. Greg.
Mm.
We're so frantic with their energy that we couldn't
made a
quite.
decision.
Yeah. I'm
just gonna edit you. That's fine.
That they couldn't quite keep up with what they were always reacting to, so it was kind of like always a surprise.
That does feel like being a femme in high school.
Yeah, it's just like a group of, if you get a group of girls in high school together, I'm sorry, that is just chaos in a way that like boys aren't. I feel like boys are predictable in their chaos, and girls are like, oh my god, you guys need to leave the guy. Like I was annoyed with myself in high school.
Same.
I think about it all the time, and I was like, was I like that? I was like, yeah. Absolutely. 100%. So again, I feel like the chaos of this film, which is very chaotic,
the gay chaos
was
the chaos.
The chaos was super. They wanted that. We got the succubi icon, and we got chaos out of this.
I'm on a roll today.
So to keep things moving during the 24-day shoot, the filmmakers were also really big on blocking. So there was a lot of that in this. Again, there is a lot of like movement and blocking to be had in this.
There's also a lot of car work
Yeah.
Like, how'd they do the car crash into the lake on this?
Don't have those in my notes. That's where I couldn't find a lot of stuff. I was happy to get the tiny scraps that I got in this.
So many questions.
I feel like you'll find this interesting, and you'll probably be like, absolutely not. Is their inspirations for this film was one of the big ones was Carrie.
Love our favorite period film.
Yeah, and they kind of said a bunch of like Brian De Palma films also were kind of inspiration.
I mean, there's a character called Vic De Palma, which like as soon as he came on the screen,
oh my god, I didn't even fucking think about that.
I was cackling.
Oh, so you clocked it before. You always clock these things before I do.
Well, because I'm a huge De Palma fanboy. So as soon as there's a character called Vic De Palma,
you're like, aha.
Wonder what this could be named after. Yeah.
They said they used like heavy diffusion.
Did they?
Pause. Pause for the diffusion. Do we see it? Is the diffusion in the room with us now? Maybe the diffusion was the friends we made along the way. But he said
the diffusion was the chaos we made along the way.
Yeah. But he said they did that to get the I don't mean to like laugh because I really like love the thought that went into this film, but they said that they did that to get the like classic De Palma look, and I'm like, I don't know if it was achieved, but we can all try.
Yes,
you know,
try.
I as much as this film isn't perfect, is perfect in a lot of other ways. Yes, so they were obviously big fans in Brian De Palma's work. Great. They said this film.
He can be pretty cheesy himself at times, which like, and I say this as somebody who loves De Palma. Like he is a filmmaker who sometimes enjoys a little schlock. So I think there's, I can see it.
Glad you can. I'm not gonna speak on it. What I can speak on is this film was compared to Heathers and Mean Girls a lot, which they were like, we never set out to be those things. So, but they constantly got compared to those two things. I just think that's people grasping at straws and trying to connect this film that is so in its own lane that there's like no connection to be had.
I think that's just like anytime there's teenage girls and it's funny.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's Heathers. Oh, it's Mean Girls. And like, I also I've never understood why people compare Heathers and Mean Girls so much. I think those are two very, very, very different movies, but that's a whole other thing. I'd love to talk about Heathers sometime on the podcast.
Yeah, Heathers is so good.
That was a foundational movie for me. I made so many of my friends watch Heathers in high school, and like as soon as you get to the bomb scene, everybody's like, Siena, what are you doing?
Yeah, I feel like Heathers is still unappreciated.
Yes.
I feel like it's still not where it needs to be.
Going back to the Jennifer's Body conversation, I feel like it still hasn't fully made that flip from cult to canon yet. Like it's still in that process.
Yeah. I feel like that's where this one rests. I think it might stay in that limbo. I don't know if it's, I think it's gonna, if it gets uplifted, I think because now it gets connected to Jennifer's Body in conversation.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think specifically with queer female characters, I think that's where
great double feature.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel, and we can, that's my next part. I feel like we can get into it. They're the same, but they do things very differently in different,
I had a note that I actually wanted to ask you about that. One of the things I was really interested in, I know I'm often looking for places where there are lines of dialogue that kind of like echo each other in the movies we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there was one in this pairing that was like almost identical from the two movies that was.
Do you have it noted?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this theme of we're friends because we like all the same things as the basis for a really intense queer female friendship. The idea that like, no, it's not that we're gay. It's just that she and I are best friends because we like all the same things, which I was thinking about that and I was like, that was very much how I was in high school. I was very much like, I'm friends with these people because we like the same things. And then you grow out of it and you're like, A, that's not why we're friends, and B, I didn't like those things in the first place a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I think it's a very quintessential high school experience of thinking that, like, I think when you're a teenager and you're trying to figure out who you are, it's like you don't have enough of an internal sense of yourself. You just have the things you like.
Yeah, you're kind of just collecting from every either experience or every person you know or every like media you consume. Like you're collecting like little rocks and you're like, wait, which rocks do I actually
which
nope,
rock
don't like
is
that
me?
rock.
Yeah.
Don't like that rock.
You're like collaging yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think there's like
but if you pair that with being queer too, you're also trying to figure out your queer identity in the world.
The classic, do I want to be her or be with her question. And so I think there's like a way in which a lot of us who had big gay crushes on our friends in high school end up like picking up pieces of the personalities of the girls we have crushes on in high school and like molding ourselves to them.
Yeah.
So that you're like, oh no, it's not that I'm into her, it's just that we're just really, really similar.
Yeah. That's so funny.
So just
did you know where that dialogue was in I know where it was in Jennifer's Body, but where was it in
it's in both of them. It's near the beginning, and it was I think it's Maddie talking about it in this one. And I believe it's Maddie talking about, oh my gosh, what's her name, the cheerleader who dies at the beginning.
Oh god,
but you know
forget her name. Yeah, the one whose neck snaps.
So good. That was brutal.
Isn't it so fun?
So brutal.
Immediately just starts off.
Yeah.
You wanted her to die.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
She's a bitch.
Yeah. She seems awful. Which I'm also curious, is it trying to tell us that they were a couple? Like behind
that wasn't, I don't know. I feel like because everything was so obvious that maybe if you felt that, it probably was the goal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Because the thing I like about, and I'm just gonna kind of jump to it because I feel like it's a little bit more. I feel like it's more interesting. Is that the film kind of, even within this campiness that's happening, kind of the thing that Jennifer's Body does, and I feel like this film does, is it really does ground these characters and specifically queer characters as humans. And like, again, even for like two male writer directors, I feel like they handled this so well that even like you have these bitchy cheerleaders that in every sense already should hate these girls because they're like the weirdos, right? Or the outcasts. And you would think like the original, like the first dig that they would take at these characters, like, oh, you're gay.
Yeah.
And it just never happens. Yeah. And it's so nice because it's just presented. And I think a lot of where the cult love of this film comes from is that experience that it is so, it's handled so delicately and it kind of just like presents it as fact. And then like it allows the rest of the film
to just be wild
swirl
and crazy.
around it.
Yeah, which I think is it's kind of fascinating because it's only 4 years after Jennifer's Body, but like you're saying, it's already like the homophobia is not explicit anymore. It's not. Nobody's calling each other gay as an insult. Nobody's calling each other fagos as an insult.
Fagos.
Like,
Yeah, we didn't get to mention that. In
gotta bring
Body.
it back.
I
Gotta bring
Michigan where we
fagos
actually
back.
drank Fago, so I have complicated feelings about that, Siena.
Problematic of me.
I just associate that with like ICP.
That's okay with me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, those worlds can collide.
They can collide. Yeah. There's some queerness to the ICP world.
I mean, they're clowns.
They're clowns.
There's
I think there's an inherent queerness.
I love
to
clowns.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole
says
other.
Anything.
That's for next episode.
So not only does it tackle kind of that theme of like obviously sexism as a whole, I think this tackles too. So it really is like these group of girls. I think, you know, starting off, you know, rift and apart and not, but they come together to kind of defeat this big bad together, which is Terry, who he's so cat-like, and he's so good at just I love characters who look
performer.
Yeah, he was really great. The only I have it for later, but the issue I have with this film, so it does a lot of things right. I just want to note, I hate that the only bad character is a person of color.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I was definitely thinking about that.
You did everything else right, and you couldn't have put another person of color in this goddamn film. And it's so white.
Well, the one other character of color we get has her neck snapped in the very opening scene.
Yeah. So I'm like, good job on other things, but can we, even in 2013, or if they shot this in like 2012, whatever, that could have been fixed like very easily.
Both of our films are very white. Let's say that. These are two extremely white films.
Is there any person?
I don't.
I think Amit.
Yeah, and I think there's
Poor
one.
buddy.
I think there's one East Asian girl who has a couple of lines in Jennifer's Body, and I think that's it.
Yeah, she turns around. I loved everyone's accent in that film too, by the way. Someone who grew up in Michigan was very close to those accents. Let me find my.
Sorry, I threw you off. You were talking about Terry.
That was just like my one big gripe that I have, other than like the casual things.
Especially because he becomes so evil by the end. Like, he loses his humanity pretty quickly. Yeah.
But again, I love that these. I know we keep going back to it, but I love how these two male writer-directors handled teenage girls and what it's like to kind of be a teenage girl in high school. I think it was just a blatant kind of, I don't think it really had anything to do with them being queer, but this idea of men or boys or whatever kind of having to have ownership of women. The second they kind of step out of that, step out of, you know, their vision of women's sexuality, like the fact that they're coming, I think, was it Tracy when she has sex with Maddie? She's like, it blew my socks off, and it's just like that. You can just see all of his, what's the word? Like manly hold on women is not elegant at all.
I know what you're saying though.
I'm trying to like look at you so you shoot me the right word. But that kind of masculine. Like, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's not exact because it's like.
It's men in the room. Can you help me with this word?
Yeah, I guess specific than misogyny. It's like,
but I feel like there's this idea of like it challenges their masculinity in a way. I think that just, again, we talked about it in The Witch, like women's sexuality, and when they come into it and feel comfortable with it, that just immediately sets off men.
It's scary.
It's challenging for them. I feel like it challenges them, and it's challenging for them to understand. And then
it's challenging for us to understand.
Yeah, and adding the queer element. But I liked that this didn't make it inherently that was kind of just a catalyst for this. But it really is such a broad conversation. It's like it doesn't matter if you're queer or straight. Like that's still something I think as a female presenting person you have to deal with, especially in high school. So I have some quotes. I read a review of this film from popmythology.com that said, quote, "This movie also shows that regardless of gender, we're all human and have selfish habits. But when one of their own is threatened, the female protagonists in this film come together without hesitation." I think this is also very morally gray characters. I don't think anyone in
Totally.
this is perfect or great. So I think just handling that on a human level too, these kind of like weirdly parallel to each other.
Well, and it's interesting the way that quote you just read is phrased, because it makes me think about the fact that the male characters are also bonding together to protect their own. It's just that look how different that looks. Like it.
Well, one's like, I feel like, again, one's this very like ego-centric protection, again, that masculinity, and then the other one is literally from danger.
Yeah, one is a
And they're trying to save the other
protection-
girls too.
Yeah, I mean the men are trying to protect each other from getting in trouble, essentially, from being discovered to have done something wrong, versus the women protecting each other from physical harm.
Yeah, like actual death.
Yeah, death. Yes.
So yeah, I love this film for that, because I think, again, in the silly goofiness in very different ways. That's why I think this is a good double feature, and why I really wanted to talk about this with that is like
brilliant pairing.
Jennifer, they're done in different ways, but I think the same thing is achieved within them.
Well, and I also found this to be hilariously like a much sweeter love story than Jennifer's Body. Like I'm like rooting for the couple in this film.
Yeah,
Whereas
so
like I don't. Jennifer and Needy are bad.
they need
for
to like
each
stop
other.
it.
They need to be separated.
I actually like my next quote is like the filmmakers specifically wanted to have queer characters that wasn't just like girls kissing girls because it's hot. So one of my criticisms of Jennifer's Body is, even though I thought it was really interesting. It was done by a female writer and a director, and I did feel like it was, and again, I don't think it's a bad thing, but it did feel like, maybe it was the marketing, it felt like more for the male gaze.
It does feel like it's meant to be hot in a way where,
which is good too, and maybe that's my own like I have to break that down.
No, I think, but like you're touching on something real, which is like this did not feel like the sex scenes between women are shot to be hot. It feels like they're shot to be tender.
Yeah.
And the ones in Jennifer's Body are not tender.
Yeah.
That's not
different time though. It's like maybe they knew that they had to do that to get where they needed to get, which I also think is a power move.
Yeah. I also just it was a hot kiss.
I mean, it was hot. It was too hot. I almost had to close my eyes.
Yeah. I
I almost had to peek. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What are the dogs
I had to
doing?
like pause and go get some water and come back.
Was the heat up me? I gotta take the dogs for a walk. The filmmakers specifically said they tried to not do that, which I was happy it was a conscious choice. That it wasn't just a spectacle. I have another quote from Chris, the writer-director. He said, "We tried to treat this as something that was completely normal, which I feel like with teenagers these days, that's probably how it is. I mean, I'm no authority on current teenage culture, but each successive generation seems to evolve more than the generation that in that fashion to where it's normal for their part of life." So he realizes like it was just the next evolution in filmmaking. So I like that they made that a choice. I'm not sure why.
I'm just like having a moment of queer self-reflection, because this 2013 was my senior year in high school, so it's like the bookend of my high school experience.
Funny, yeah,
which is like
from
kind of
freshman.
interesting.
Yeah,
it was, and it was very different. Like that time period from 2009 to 2013. And then 2015, gay marriage is legalized across the country.
Yep.
So it's like, it's really interesting thinking back to,
in a few short years, the leaps that were made.
Yeah.
So, and then now it's like
very different.
So different.
Very different.
Ugh, what a time.
Yeah.
It's got to be nice.
What must it be like to be a queer teen coming of age now?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what films are going to come out from like this generation making films. And
Bottoms. Things like Bottoms. I think. I feel like that's like the next.
Yeah.
That's like in the sphere of this type of stuff.
Have you seen Bottoms? Not to go off. Okay, we gotta get on that.
Yeah.
Everyone bully Siena online. We promote online bullying for that.
True. It's effective. It does make me watch things.
That being said, we're gonna get very quickly into what the critics and public thinks of this. So
what's the Rotten Tomatoes rating?
So it's 40%.
Oh, so almost
lower.
Exactly the same.
So we were both in the 40s.
Yeah, 40, 46.
Oh, yeah. They're really close. That's and really then, so it's 43 reviews with an average of 4.9 out of 10. I kind of, I put on blinders to everyone that didn't like this film.
Love.
So I chose good reviews.
Yes.
Of why.
What would you rate this before I do our letterbox?
Yeah, we were talking about how we're gonna do like letterbox.
Yeah.
Every film that I have on this podcast, I want to give a 5 because I watch things for entertainment and things that make me like feel good, and I don't watch anything I don't like. So I would give a 5. I think objectively, I'd probably give it a 3.
Fair.
I like to think it's not a perfect film,
but it's enjoyable.
So I would do a 3.
That's fair.
I think it gets knocked down because the chaos and then like the way it was shot. Story. You care about the characters. It's campy.
And you never
I almost
know
wanted
where
it
it's
to be
gonna
more
go.
camp.
Yeah.
I feel like it really could have gone more
The
camp.
moments where it leans into camp are the most successful to me.
Her sucking Larry's blood and they suck him dry.
Amazing. Yeah. Love.
10
Obsessed.
out of 10.
10 out of 10 would suck.
What would you what would you rate it?
I think I gave it a 2.5. So not much lower.
You're harsher.
Well, and
you give all my films like Siena, just if anyone follows us, we're letterbox, we're Splice Splatter.
Yeah.
Siena loves to give all my films really low ratings.
I've been trying to be better about it.
It's okay. That's we're like truly like sometimes the opposite of the spectrum of like what we,
which I think is why it's good we're doing this, because it's like wherever you fall on the horror spectrum, one of us will align.
Yeah.
Like,
so yeah, that checks out.
What would you rate Jennifer's Body?
A 4.
I gave it a 4 too.
Yeah. It was like room for improvement.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of timely things that could have been like were
there are things that like hurt.
Yeah. There were things that hurt to hear.
Yeah.
But guy loved
it.
Yeah. Music, cast.
To me, like a 4 is like it's a really great film that had a couple of issues. Which is like what I felt.
But yeah, I loved it. I can't wait to watch it again. I feel like and
know
what I'm getting into.
Yeah. Now that I know what the sticker on my computer is for.
Yeah. Now you get it. So I'm just gonna read a couple of these quotes and then we can sign ourselves off of here. So we got this cover.com praised the film for the originality. I do kind of say they have some critiques. So they said it's mindless and contrived at points, no doubt, but All Cheerleaders Die is undeniably a witching, bitching good time, worthy of a cliffhanger ending that suggests a future sequel may be in the cards. If anyone wants to sponsor a second one, put money forth.
My God. Would watch the hell out of it.
I almost feel like, and then I'm going to read one more from, again, I found a lot of like blogs writing about this. So the cherrypicks.com said, for a queer girl struggling with depression and fearing that the odds would never be in my favor, this movie offered me more than just gore and gay sex. Maddie's violent revenge on a repressive anti-queer world is my revenge too. It reminds me that sometimes if we fight hard enough and stick together, we can actually win.
Love.
I feel like that's like the perfect. I'm stopping
That's
there.
like a great note to end on. Oh,
yeah.
So good.
So
Chef's
these were fun. I feel like we did them because it was like Women's History Month,
which I realized, of course, this is going to be released after Women's History Month.
It's every
Women's History Month for us.
Yeah. Whoops. We're not good at calendars.
Insert anti-feminist joke here about women in numbers. Sorry.
Shit. What are we doing? Bad representation.
I am my own worst
To be fair,
enemy.
we don't fully identify.
No, we're not.
So
women is
some
a
envy in there.
loose term.
But again, before we wrap up, reminder that Dawn of the Dead 45-year anniversary screening, Jean Cocteau Cinema, April 19th, 20th, and 21st. Tickets are now on sale.
I will be there loving it. I will be there hating it.
Yeah, sorry guys. If it was Day of the Dead, I'd be cosplaying as Bub. I don't know.
I mean, you could still come in cosplay as Bub.
And I'll introduce the film that way. I'll just with my little headphones.
Walk up and be like,
yeah. So come out and see that happen.
Yeah.
Our next films we realized are gonna be the same week of 420. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Yeah. Guess whose suggestion this was?
So
as your resident stoner, I was like, we need to do a stoner horror pairing.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
I'm doing Idle Hands starring Devon Sawa and one of the loves of my life, Seth Green.
Yes, from 1999.
Yep.
I'm doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space. With 2 Ks.
So good.
From 1988.
Yeah.
Which I'm really psyched
99.
for. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cute.
Sick.
I have not seen either of these. Again,
I know. I'm
it'll be a
so
first time.
excited for you.
I'm like, I feel like it's gonna be really interesting to like try and watch these films very sober and academically, and then discuss it in.
I mean, you could start early. We could always do. Maybe we do like a live
Splice
stream
Splatter
or something.
after dark.
Yeah. And then you're just stoned. I can't be stoned to do that. I could have a cocktail though.
Watch me get progressively more stoned through the episode.
Oh my god, I would love that.
Would be.
Let us know.
Yeah.
With that.
Where can people find us?
So this episode will actually be on YouTube, so you can watch it for free there. It's also going to be on Patreon. So our YouTube is Splice and Splatter Pod. Our YouTube our Patreon is patreon.com/GRRM. So you can watch us there, and then obviously we have so many clips on TikTok.
So many clips.
So you can follow us, Splice and Splatter Pod. We also have a link tree, so you guys can kind of like find everything there. We're on all the social medias.
Yes.
Even X. Unfortunately, now we're figuring out what that looks like.
We have a Letterboxd.
Yeah, we have Letterboxd at Splice Splatter.
Where I am rating all of Al's films slightly lower than mine.
Yeah. But we take some of my quotes.
Yes, I'm working on it, guys. Yeah. I'm trying to be a better person.
And with that,
we'll be right back.
No, we gotta give thanks to those in the room. I love when you do this. It's my favorite thing.
Every time.
And then I go, and then we're back.
Every time.
Thank you to our producer Warren for listening to us talk our heads off.
We love
Warren.
You. My forgetfulness is not a reflection of my love for you.
We have the man behind the camera, Travis.
Thank you, Travis.
And then we are gonna have a new one behind the camera. Keith is gonna be joining us.
Yeah.
And Theo for doing our amazing music that you hear as we finally say,
we'll be right back.